There's a moment almost everyone reaches with money, and almost nobody talks about it. You've done the hard part. You stop spending everything you earned. There's actual money sitting in an account now, money that didn't exist 6 months ago. You did what you were supposed to do, and then nothing happens. Months pass. The number barely moves. A quiet thought starts forming in the back of your mind. Is this it? Is this what being responsible actually looks like? Watching a number sit still? That moment is where most people get stuck. Not at the beginning, not at zero, right here at the halfway point. And the reason has almost nothing to do with money. Let's start with what saving actually is, because most people misunderstand its job. Saving is not a wealth building tool. It was never designed to be one. Saving is a safety tool. Its entire purpose is to make sure that when something goes wrong, and something always goes wrong, you don't have to make a desperate decision. That's it. That's the whole job. And it's a genuinely important job. But here's what nobody tells you. A tool that's excellent at one job is usually terrible at a different job. And the job saving is terrible at is growth. Money sitting in a standard account doesn't grow in any meaningful sense. In most years, inflation quietly removes purchasing power faster than a basic savings account adds it. Which means a saver who never moves past saving isn't standing still. They're very slowly moving backwards while feeling responsible the entire time. That's the trap. It doesn't feel like a mistake. It feels like discipline. Now let's talk about investing, and let's be honest about what it actually is. Investing means accepting uncertainty in exchange for the possibility of growth. That's the trade. You give up the comfort of a number that never drops, and in return, you get a number that can compound over time. Notice what that trade actually costs. It doesn't cost money, it costs certainty. And certainty is exactly what someone who just clawed their way to their first real savings is least willing to give up. This is the psychological knot at the center of everything. The person who finally has money to invest is often the person who is most afraid to. Think about what it took to build that savings. Months of saying no. Skipped things. Small sacrifices nobody noticed. That balance doesn't feel like a number to them. It feels like proof. Proof that they can control something. And investing asks them to hand that proof over to a system where the number can go down. So they wait. Until they understand it better. Until the market feels safer. Until the amount feels big enough to matter. And these all sound like reasonable conditions, but notice that none of them have a date attached. They're not plans. They're permission slips that never arrive. Meanwhile, the clock keeps running, and the clock is the entire mechanism that makes investing work at all. Here's the part worth sitting with. The advantage in investing doesn't primarily come from picking well, it comes from time. Growth compounds on growth, and compounding needs runway. Someone who starts modestly and early can end up ahead of someone who starts aggressively and late, because time did the heavy lifting, which means the most expensive thing in this entire conversation isn't a bad investment. It's a delayed one. Every month spent waiting to feel ready is a month permanently removed from the front of the runway, and you can't add it back later by contributing more. Money added later has less time to compound. That's not a motivational statement. It's just arithmetic. So how does someone actually cross this gap? Not in theory, in practice this week. The mistake most people make is treating it as a switch. Save, save, save. Then one day, flip to investing. That framing guarantees paralysis because flipping a switch means the safety disappears all at once. It was never a switch. It's a ratio. Start with the safety layer. Before anything else, you want a cash buffer that covers your real fixed cost for a meaningful stretch. enough that an unexpected problem doesn't force you to sell something at the worst possible time. This money is not for growth, it's for peace. It has one job and it's doing it well. Once that buffer exists, the question changes. It's no longer whether to invest, it's what percentage of new money goes toward growth from here. And that percentage can start small, genuinely small. The purpose of the first investment is not returns, it's exposure. It's teaching your nervous system that a number can drop and then recover, and that nothing catastrophic happened in between. Because the first time you see a balance fall, you learn something about yourself. Better to learn that with a small amount early than with a large amount later. Then it becomes automatic, not a decision you make each month, a transfer that happens whether or not you feel confident. This matters more than people expect because motivation is not a reliable input. Systems are. Now, here's the reframe that changes how this whole thing feels. Most people think of saving and investing as two competing strategies. Pick the right one, avoid the wrong one. They're not competing, they're two different tools solving two different problems. Saving answers the question, what if something goes wrong? Investing answers the question, what if nothing goes wrong for 20 years? You need answers to both. A person with only savings has protected their present and abandoned their future. A person with only investments has built a future they might be forced to dismantle the first time life surprises them. The goal was never to pick a side. It was to know which tool is doing which job and to stop expecting one of them to do both. So if you're sitting at that halfway point right now, money saved, nothing moving, quietly wondering if you're doing something wrong, you're not. You're at the point where the skill changes. Saving required discipline. What comes next requires tolerance. Discipline is about doing hard things. Tolerance is about sitting with uncertainty without undoing your own decision. That's a different muscle, and almost nobody warns you that you'll need it. You don't need to feel ready. Readiness is not a prerequisite, it's a result. It shows up after you've watched a number move and survived it. Start smaller than feels meaningful. Automate it so it doesn't depend on how you feel that month. And let time do the part you can't. If this clarified something you'd been stuck on, subscribe to Mind and Money. Because next time we're breaking down the psychology of debt and why paying off the smallest balance first often beats the mathematically correct answer.